In the dead of night, with the silence of the prison pressing down like a heavy weight, 3 men stood before the final door, just one lock away from freedom. Their hands trembled, not from fear, but from months of painstaking effort leading to this very moment. Behind them lay 10 heavily secured doors, each one a battle they had already won. But this last lock was different. It refused to yield. Time was running out. The slightest noise could mean discovery, and discovery meant death. Then, with a final desperate effort, the lock gave way. The door creaked open, revealing the cold, open air of a South African night. The impossible had just become reality. In the 1970s, South Africa was under the grip of apartheid, a brutal system of racial segregation enforced by the white minority government. Among those who opposed this oppressive regime were Tim Jenkins and Stephen Lee, 2 white South African activists who dedicated their lives to fighting for justice. They worked secretly, distributing anti-government messages and exposing the atrocities of apartheid. Their actions made them enemies of the state. In January 1978, they were arrested and charged with terrorism. Their crime was not violence but the distribution of anti-apartheid literature, a direct challenge to the government's control. The court sentenced them to 12 years in Pretoria Central Prison, a maximum security facility notorious for housing political prisoners. Surrounded by a 6-meter-high metal fence, guarded by armed officers on rooftops, and patrolled by fierce guard dogs at night, it was a fortress designed to keep men like them inside. But Tim and Stephen were not ordinary prisoners. From the moment they arrived, escape was the only thing on their minds. Their cells were located on the 2nd floor, eliminating any hope of tunneling out or escaping through a window. There was only one way out, through the doors. The problem was, between them and freedom stood 10 locked doors, each one an obstacle designed to crush any hope of escape. Tim had some experience with locks. He began observing the mechanisms carefully, noting the way the guards turned their keys, how the locks clicked, and any slight details that might reveal their inner workings. He sketched diagrams of the locks, trying to reconstruct them in his mind. The first challenge was unlocking the inner barred door of their cell. The prison had a carpentry workshop where Tim was assigned to work. Using whatever scraps of wood he could find, he carefully carved a crude key based on his observations. To avoid suspicion, he smuggled the key back to his cell inside a modified coffee cup. Night after night, he tested the key, refining it based on the marks left by the lock's pins. After weeks of trial and error, the wooden key finally worked. The inner barred door of their cell clicked open, but the outer steel door was a much greater challenge. It could only be unlocked from the outside, and the small window next to the door was too far to reach the keyhole. Tim needed a tool that could manipulate the lock from a distance. He fashioned a broomstick with a wooden cube at the end, attaching the key in such a way that it could be maneuvered from inside the cell. Using a mirror to see his target, he extended the broomstick through the window and attempted to turn the key. Night after night, he adjusted the tool, making small refinements. Then, after months of painstaking effort, the lock finally gave way. With the cell doors unlocked, Tim and Stephen turned their attention to the section doors. They soon realized that the key Tim had crafted for their cell doors also worked on the section door, a stroke of luck that saved them weeks of effort. However, beyond that, the next set of doors required entirely different keys, and each presented its own unique challenge. They needed information. Stephen faked a severe toothache, forcing the guards to take him to an outside dentist. During the journey, he counted every door they passed through, memorizing the route and studying the locks. When he returned, he brought crucial information. There were 10 doors in total. Realizing they needed additional help, they recruited another political prisoner, Alex Mumbar. Now a team of 3, they spent weeks studying the prison layout, mapping out every door, guard patrol, and potential weak spot. They knew that any misstep could mean death, so their planning had to be flawless. The 6th door was the next major hurdle. Its lock was more complex than the others. Tim designed a new key using metal wires and interchangeable wooden heads, allowing for greater flexibility. After several nights of silent attempts, they finally unlocked the sixth door. The seventh door was made of iron bars. Tim discovered a way to tamper with the lock, making it easy to open with a simple tool. The eighth door, to their relief, was already unlocked, and the ninth could be opened using the same key that had worked on the fourth and fifth doors. Now they stood before the 10th and final door, the last barrier between them and freedom. But this lock was different. None of their keys worked. Time was running out. They had planned their escape for a night when guard rotations were slow, but they couldn't afford delays. Alex took the biggest risk of all. Using a stolen metal tool from the workshop, he attempted to break the lock. It was a dangerous move. The slightest noise could alert the guards. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he applied pressure. The metal groaned, the sound dangerously loud in the silent corridor. Then, finally, the lock snapped. The door creaked open. Cool night air rushed in, filling their lungs with the scent of freedom. They stepped out into the open, their hearts pounding. Dressed in civilian clothes stolen from a prison storage room, they walked calmly through the prison grounds, blending into the night. No alarms rang. No guards stopped them. Outside the prison, they had arranged for a smuggler from Zimbabwe to help them flee the country. From Zimbabwe, they made their way to Zambia and then to Tanzania. Eventually, they boarded a flight to London, where they lived in exile until apartheid finally collapsed in 1994. Years later, Tim Jenkins wrote a book detailing their daring escape, which was later adapted into a film. Their story is not just one of resilience and ingenuity. It is a testament to the unbreakable human spirit in the face of oppression. Against all odds, 3 men defied an entire system, proving that even the strongest prison walls could not contain the power of determination and the pursuit of justice.